Pharrell Williams is not who you think he is. Behind that soft voice, that big hat, and all those happy vibes is a man accused of betrayal, manipulation, and silence in the face of some of the industry's dirtiest drama. From stealing royalties from Kelis, to allegedly neglecting a teenage Teyana Taylor's career, to that shady fallout with Clipse, Pharrell's clean image has protected him for years. But once you start connecting the dots, the nice guy narrative starts falling apart fast. And then there's that rumored beef with Drake. Oh yeah, it's real. Subtle jabs, music videos throwing shade, and a multi-million-dollar fashion play that may have been Pharrell's final revenge. But it gets deeper, because the truth is, Pharrell didn't just watch the Neptunes fall apart, he might have orchestrated it, quietly, strategically, while smiling the whole time. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how the king of cool silently cut ties, shelved artists, ducked lawsuits, and dipped into fashion money, while the people around him were left behind. Pharrell Williams might be a genius, but that doesn't mean he's innocent. Pharrell didn't just stroll into the 2000s with buttery falsetto and skateboard swagger. He manufactured an entire personality brand. Watch any early Neptunes interview and you'll see it. The shy grin, the sir and ma'am. The almost whisper answers that made journalists lean in. Die-hard fans still gush over how he thanks every studio intern, how he calls strangers brother, how he once stopped a show because a fan fainted. The message? This guy is pure sunshine. And it's brilliant marketing. When your business is turning dirty rap hooks into Grammy gold, the sweetest pie persona keeps the moral police off your back. Drop it like it's Hot Tops charts? Oh, but Pharrell's so polite, it must be art? He co-writes Britney's I'm a Slave for You at the height of teen pop innocence? Relax, Mom. Pharrell wears cartoon hoodies and talks about positivity. Even Happy felt less like a song and more like a billion-dollar rebrand. The soundtrack to Minion memes, wedding dances, and corporate feel-good ads. He became the walking TED Talk of optimism, so squeaky clean that Ellen, Oprah, and every PTA president gave him a pass. But here's the plot twist. That politeness makes the perfect smokescreen for cold-blooded business moves. Industry veterans whisper that Pharrell's handshake is gentle, while his contracts are ruthless. Producers complain about points disappearing. Singers say they got friend-zoned in writing sessions. Everybody left smiling while their publishing splits quietly shrank. It's chess, not checkers, and Pharrell's soft-spoken vibe keeps opponents guessing. Still think his halo is bulletproof? Ask Kelī, the milkshake queen who says Pharrell's niceness cost her millions. That's where the sugarcoating melts, and where our story really starts to taste bitter. So, let's talk about Kelī. You know, the woman who gave us Caught Out There, Bossy, and the most iconic milkshake in R&B history. She wasn't just a vibe, she was a whole genre. And guess who was standing right next to her during her rise? Pharrell and Chad Hugo. The Neptunes produced her entire debut album Kaleidoscope, a critically adored project that helped define that offbeat, futuristic early 2000s sound. But years later, Kelis dropped a bombshell that made fans do a double take. In a 2020 interview, she revealed that despite her voice and image building the foundation of their success, she didn't make a single dime in royalties from that album. Nothing. Zilch. Her words? I was blatantly lied to and tricked. According to Kelis, Pharrell and his team had her sign contracts early in her career that, while technically legal, stripped her of proper credit and compensation. She says she was young, trusting, and thought they were all family. Instead, she ended up locked out of her own legacy. The Neptunes got rich, Cal's got robbed. And here's the kicker. When she confronted Pharrell years later, he smiled at her. That's it. No apology, no explanation, just that same calm, calculated demeanor he always presents. The public brushed it off at first. Oh, it's a misunderstanding. That's just business. But Kelis doubled down, saying Pharrell's behavior wasn't ignorance. It was strategic. He knew what he was doing. And when Beyoncé tried to sample Kelis' song for Renaissance, Kelis wasn't mad at Bey. She was mad that Pharrell still owned her work and gave permission without even a heads up. It's one thing to ghost a collaborator, it's another to ghost their entire paycheck. And the fact that Pharrell never clapped back, never defended himself, that silence said more than a press release ever could. And sadly, Kelis wasn't the only one left hanging, because just a few years later, Pharrell would do something eerily similar to another rising star, one who was still a teenager when she put her trust in him. Enter Teyana Taylor, a Harlem-born triple threat with a raspy voice, streetwear swagger, and enough raw talent to run circles around half the industry. Back in 2007, she was just 15 when Pharrell signed her to his Star Trak label under Interscope. Everyone thought she was the next big thing. Remember her Sweet 16 episode on MTV? It was literally a coming-out party for what was supposed to be the arrival of Pharrell's next protege. But what came after that? Crickets. No debut album, no major push, just years of hype, delays, and frustration. Teyana later revealed she felt completely abandoned. Despite being signed to one of the most iconic producers in hip-hop, her music was shelved, her voice muted, and her development as an artist completely ignored. She stuck around 5 whole years with barely anything to show for it. Her words in later interviews were painfully direct. "Nobody fought for me." And if you listen close, she never directly shaded Pharrell, but the implication was crystal clear. She was a teenage girl handed to the machine, promised the world, and then forgotten. Was it incompetence? Was it industry politics? Or was it Pharrell being Pharrell, letting his nice guy silence shield him from accountability yet again? Even when she eventually dropped her debut album 7 Under Good Music, it wasn't until 2014, 7 years after her initial signing. And by then, the momentum was long gone. So what happened? Some say Pharrell got distracted by fashion. Others say he didn't know how to market a dark-skinned female artist who didn't fit the typical pop mold. But whatever the excuse, Teyana got the short end of the Star Trak stick. And when you zoom out, a pattern starts forming. Because it's not just Kelis, it's not just Teyana. Pharrell's label, Star Trak, was full of artists who went missing in action. Projects delayed, albums shelved, budgets vanishing. And it begs the question, what the hell was going on behind the scenes? Star Trak was supposed to be the future, a label founded by Pharrell and Chad Hugo that oozed cool. It had the beats, the look, the swagger. It was like Rockefeller meets the Jetsons. And for a while, it worked. The Neptunes were printing hits, and their artists were poised to win big. But behind all that futuristic polish was a label crumbling under poor management, shady accounting, and some truly suspicious vanishing acts. Let's start with Family. The Virginia rapper had Pharrell's full backing in the early 2000s. Cosigns, Neptunes production, even a feature on the Neptunes Present. Clones, which, by the way, went platinum. Family was everywhere, until he wasn't. His debut album, Train Togo, was hyped for years. There were even music videos, radio play. But the project never dropped. Word on the street, budget issues, label miscommunication. Some fans say the masters were done, but Pharrell just never released them. Then there's Roscoe P. Coldchain, a rapper with a gritty delivery and street edge that made people think he was the next Clipse. But Roscoe's story takes an even darker turn. His music with Star Trak started to slow down, then abruptly stopped, and not long after, he was arrested on serious charges, life-changing ones. Now, obviously, he made choices that affected his career, but the way the label disappeared from his side after hyping him so hard, that's the part nobody talks about. And it wasn't just rap acts. Look at Robin Thicke. Yes, that Robin Thicke. His Star Trak debut, A Beautiful World, flopped hard. The label had no idea how to market a soulful white boy with a Jesus beard riding motorcycles in slow-mo. It took 7 years and a total image overhaul before Thicke finally got his moment with Blurred Lines. And even then, Pharrell was right back at the center when the lawsuit hit. But we'll get to that drama in a second. The point is, Star Trak had all the potential in the world, but lacked the structure, protection, and follow-through to actually support its artists long-term. And Pharrell? He wasn't exactly losing sleep over it. He still had Neptunes credits, NERD buzz, and fashion collabs. The ship was leaking, and he was already on the lifeboat. But not everyone made it out, especially not Clipse, because their fallout, that was personal and explosive. Now let's talk about Clipse, the gritty lyrical duo from Virginia Beach who made coke rap sound like Shakespeare with a ski mask. Pusha T and Malice, now no Malice, were the street backbone of Star Trak. Without them, there's no edge, no credibility, just Pharrell floating around in skinny jeans and falsettos. Their debut album, Lord Willin', was a critical and commercial smash. Certified gold, hit singles, Rolling Stone praise, and of course, every single beat produced by the Neptunes. It was raw, grimy, cinematic, and it made people pay attention to Star Trak as more than just a playground for weird experimental side projects. But what followed was an absolute nightmare. Clipse's second album, Hell Hath No Fury, got stuck in label limbo for 4 years because of a messy split between Arista and Jive Records. Pharrell had moved the Star Trak imprint under Interscope, but Clipse were contractually stranded. They couldn't drop new music. They couldn't leave. And to make matters worse, Jive wanted them to make radio records. You know, something less drug dealer, more dance floor. Pusha and Malice weren't having it, so they did the unthinkable. They sued their label. Now here's where things get weird. You'd expect Pharrell, their longtime friend, producer, and label boss, to step in and fix the mess. Maybe negotiate a new deal. Fight for his artists the way they fought on his beats, but instead, crickets, radio silence. Pharrell didn't publicly back them, didn't speak on the lawsuit, didn't even produce the majority of Hell Hath No Fury once it finally dropped in 2006. And it showed. The vibe between Clipse and Star Trak was never the same. Pusha T has never directly slammed Pharrell in interviews, but the distance was loud. Over time, Clipse left the label entirely. And when Malice found religion and stepped away from rap, Pharrell didn't try to rebuild the brand. He moved on, just like that. Some fans say Pharrell got caught between business and brotherhood. Others think he just didn't care enough to get involved unless it was his money on the line. But either way, Clipse was the heart of Star Trak. And when they walked out, so did the soul. What came next? Pharrell's biggest hit and his biggest humiliation. A courtroom disaster that exposed everything and cost him $5 million. Ah, yes. Blurred Lines, the song that was everywhere, and I mean everywhere. It was 2013, and you couldn't walk into a store, turn on a radio, or scroll through a playlist without hearing Robin Thicke, Pharrell, and T.I. chanting, "I Know You Want It," over that infectious, feel-good beat. It was a smash. It was sexy. It was catchy. And it was, allegedly, stolen. Enter the Marvin Gaye estate. They claimed Blurred Lines wasn't just inspired by Marvin Gaye's Got to Give It Up. It was basically a copy-paste with a modern twist, and they weren't playing games. They dragged Pharrell and Robin Thicke into a brutal lawsuit that turned into a full-blown media circus. Pharrell defended the song hard, insisting it was a completely original composition with just a similar feel. But the jury? They weren't buying it. In 2015, the court hit Pharrell and Robin with a staggering $7.4 million verdict, later reduced to $5 million. Still, it was a jaw-dropping moment. The golden boy of production, Mr. I See Sounds, was now at the center of one of the most high-profile copyright cases in music history. And here's the part nobody talks about. Robin Thicke got clowned publicly, but Pharrell, he slid right through. No real damage to his brand, no huge fallout, no cancellation. Why? Because that nice guy image protected him again. But let's be real, this was a serious blow to Pharrell's so-called genius status. For years, critics had praised his innovation, his ear, his originality. But this lawsuit cracked the illusion. Suddenly, people were wondering, is Pharrell truly that innovative? Or has he just been good at packaging influence as originality? And while the dust settled, Pharrell quietly pivoted away from music, away from controversy, right into something far more profitable and a lot less risky. Fashion, luxury, hype culture. He reinvented himself as a mogul with taste, but some people noticed what he left behind, because while Pharrell was chasing designer runways, his music empire was crumbling. After the Blurred Lines fallout, Pharrell didn't double down on music. He walked away from it, slowly, quietly, but very intentionally. Instead of rebuilding Star Trak, mentoring new artists, or even reviving the magic of the Neptunes, Pharrell traded in the studio for the runway. He launched Billionaire Boys Club and Ice Cream, streetwear brands that were cool, sure, but still kinda niche. Then came collaborations with Adidas, Moncler, Chanel. He even became creative director for Louis Vuitton's menswear line after Virgil Abloh's passing. Let that sink in. Pharrell, the man who once chopped up soul samples in his basement, is now sitting front row at Paris Fashion Week, designing $3,000 leather backpacks and rubbing elbows with LVMH execs. And don't get it twisted, this wasn't just a side hustle. Fashion became the priority. While his peers were still grinding in the booth, Pharrell was posing for GQ spreads and flexing million-dollar watches. When fans begged for a Neptunes reunion or new Nerd D project, all they got were vague promises and skincare lines. To be fair, Pharrell's transition wasn't a flop. If anything, he leveled up. He positioned himself as the ultimate tastemaker, someone above genre, above culture, almost untouchable. But here's the catch. As he rose in fashion, he left a trail of forgotten artists, abandoned projects, and broken musical promises behind him. And that's the part fans don't want to talk about. Because it's easier to repost his latest drip than to admit he ghosted an entire generation of talent. Remember when people used to say Pharrell never ages? Maybe it's because he stopped carrying the weight of anybody but himself. But here's the question no one's asked yet. Was this all part of the plan? Did Pharrell intend to fade from music? Or was it just a convenient escape route from the chaos he helped create? At this point, you have to wonder, was Pharrell really just a laid-back creative who got caught in industry messes? Or was he quietly playing 4D chess the whole time? Think about it. The man built a brand on being different. He wasn't flashy like Diddy or aggressive like Kanye. He was soft-spoken, quirky, artsy. He played invisible, and that invisibility gave him power. While other producers were busy beefing, Pharrell kept smiling, collecting checks, and letting his image do the heavy lifting. It's almost genius how he avoids blame. Kelis accuses him of stealing. He says nothing. Clipse sues the label. He stays out of it. Blurred Lines becomes a legal mess. He walks away with a fashion deal. And maybe that's the strategy. Play neutral. Say nothing. Let the public project niceness onto you while you make strategic exits. Rebrand after controversies, and never burn a bridge, even when others go down in flames. It's why he's still invited everywhere, still considered safe in an industry that's eaten so many of its own. Pharrell doesn't fight battles, he disappears from them. He doesn't clap back, he reinvents. That's not weakness, that's survival. But when you zoom out, it's hard not to see the pattern. Artists left behind, labels fumbled, careers shelved, while Pharrell floats above it all in $1,000 sunglasses and a prayer bead necklace. So maybe Pharrell isn't the soft, misunderstood genius people think he is. Maybe he's the quietest shark in the game. So what is Pharrell's legacy really? To the public, he's the eternal cool kid, soft-spoken, stylish, and successful. But for those who were left behind, he's the ghost in the machine. Star Trak was supposed to be the next Motown. Instead, it became a graveyard for broken deals, shelved albums, and forgotten talent. And yet, Pharrell's net worth, an estimated $250 million and climbing, thanks to fashion, fragrance lines, sneaker deals, and now his seat as Louis Vuitton's menswear creative director. He didn't just leave music behind, he monetized the escape. While Kelī, Clipse, Teyana, and others were fighting for scraps, Pharrell kept floating upward, clean, unbothered, untouched. His silence shielded him, his image protected him, and his empire kept growing. So, was he a misunderstood genius? Or a quiet operator who built his fortune on the backs of forgotten artists? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Pharrell a visionary? Or did he just know how to vanish when the heat got too real?